So, hello, everybody, and welcome. Yes, welcome and welcome back here at BSN Network. Here today, welcome back here at BSN Arc. This is the BSN Arc podcast here today. It is Tuesday, September 22nd. September 22nd. Hopefully, everybody's having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. I know I am. Hopefully, you did. I know I did. Hopefully, you did as well and is having a good day so far today. We got a lot of sports to get to today. We got the Monday night game recap, fantasy football results, Yankees, Mets, and the Stanley Cup. All today on the podcast, so yeah, should be good. Last night was a very good game. We'll recap that now. I'll give you my full week 1 picks, how I did, what my total record was, and then give you my fantasy results. So, it's Mondays recapping the Sunday games going into the Monday games. Tuesdays recapping the Monday game. Fantasy is kind of just an overall did I win or lose. Fantasy updates and results. Fantasy football, I won. I won in my one league, lost in my other. The one league that I said there's a chance I win in, I won by 85-84. My other league I lost something like 130 to like 130 to like 83 or something. I got crushed. Knew I had no chance in that league, but I was rooting for me to win in my other league. So I'm split 1-1 in both leagues now. 1-1 in my one league, 1-1 in my other league. Go into week 2. Both leagues I play 2 good opponents. So this week's big for me in fantasy football. I play good opponent. I play 2 undefeated guys. One player. One league I play an undefeated player. The other league I play guys 1-1. I play 2 good teams for fantasy this week. So if I could come out 2-0, that would be huge. Even just 1-1. If I could just split it, would be nice. So that's good. So fantasy football I won until I'm 1-1, but I got a lot of problems on my team. Saquon Barkley done for the year, torn ACL. I'm going to have to go and find a running back. My other leagues, Devontae Adams, he's questionable. George Kittle, questionable. A couple guys here and there that are questionable. Devontae Adams, they said that he could probably go. He will be able to play. Kittle probably will be able to play. But now with this whole turf thing at MetLife, people don't know what to do. They don't know if they're even going to really play there. So I don't know. My team right now is in a little bit of a downhill mode here. But the injuries hurt you in fantasy. That's what always hurts me. Last year it was injuries and just straight up bad performances by players. I mean, injuries. I told you this probably multiple times. Last year, my final week of the season, when I was playing in the third place game, I had 2 players on that team that were on my draft day team. 2 players. Patrick Mahomes and Devontae Adams. Other than that, it wasn't just trades. It was 3 players, because I had Godwin, Mahomes, Adams. Whether it was injuries and just straight up players just not performing. Those are my 2 players remaining on that team last year. It was Mahomes, Devontae Adams, maybe like 4 players. But I had to completely change my team because injuries, bad performances happened. I had to completely change it. It was crazy. So that was interesting. But hopefully this year that does not turn into that, although it very well could with the way this is going. So with all that being said, the topics for today, like I already said, Monday night game recap. Got the pick wrong, but very good game to watch. Came down to pretty much the final drive for the the Las Vegas Raiders. Then we have the fantasy football results. Talk about my fantasy teams. Talk about moves I got to make. Kind of just reviewing what I have to do in order to be competitive again. And Yankees, Mets, and Stanley Cup all are on the last topic of the day. Like always, that is always wrapping up the show. Always. Every single show, I wrap it up with a... Actually, I'm not going to do that. Every show, I wrap it up with a little Yankees action. Yankees got absolutely crushed yesterday. In a way, I feel like, and it's not that they're purposely losing, but I mean, they're resting their players for the playoffs, but I don't know, because, you also want to play a good seed, too. Like, it's not like you want to be the 7th seed and have to play the number 2 seed, which I don't know who that's going to be, but, you know what I'm saying? I don't want the Yankees to get to the point where we're losing so many of these games and then we don't get a great seed, and all of a sudden our first game is, at the moment we're playing the Twins, but that could very well change depending on how our next few games go. So we got to start winning. We got to play again tonight against the Blue Jays. So we'll see what happens there. With all that being said, this is the BSN Arc Podcast, and let's get right into it. The New Orleans Saints and the Las Vegas Raiders played last night. First game in Raiders' new stadium. Something pretty cool about the stadium that I learned, and I wasn't surprised when I heard about this, because Arizona Cardinals does do this as well. The field is on a wheel. The field's on wheels. So if you follow what I'm saying here, the field's on wheels, meaning like that field that's being shown, like the field that they're playing on, that is wheels. So it's a grass field. And when I first learned about it with Arizona, I've always wondered, why in the world are grass fields indoors? Because indoors you're not able to get enough sunlight, especially in Arizona. There's no really windows either. I can understand that maybe if there's one stadium out there that has like a window or a top that even opens, if you have a dome that opens, like the Colts, although I think they play on turf, but I'm pretty sure Lucas Oil Stadium, their dome opens, I'm pretty sure. If your dome opens, then you could have grass in it. The Cowboys dome opens, although I know they have turf because I've actually been on the Cowboys field before. But if you follow what I'm saying, I've always wondered, I know now, but a couple years ago, I've always wondered, how in the world do these teams play on turf or grass fields indoors? Because if the dome's all, the dome has no windows and the dome has no, openings and stuff, you can't get that sunlight. You can't get the, the sunlight, the rain, the water, and the stuff for the grass to grow properly, right? So what's actually pretty cool is the grass is actually, it's on wheels. Now, this is the same thing in Arizona Stadium. So I'll get into the game highlights in a second. I just thought this was pretty cool, so I was going to talk about it today. But the grass on the field is actually on a wheel. So what it does is they take it outside, up against the field. I don't know if it gets taken somewhere or whatever. Take it outside, and it gets its sunlight. It gets, if it rains, whatever. I don't know if you want the field to get rained on. But if you follow what I'm saying, because usually you don't want football fields to get rained on because then it gets all puddly. But if you follow what I'm saying, it gets the sunlight. It gets all the stuff it needs in order to grow properly and be healthy and good grass, not start to die off, right? So I thought that was pretty cool. It's the same thing at Arizona Cardinals Stadium. But because of Allegiant Stadium, I think it is called, it's dome, so it's pretty cool. But I'll tell you what, first off, before I get into the game highlights, both the new stadiums look absolutely amazing. Rams Stadium and Raiders Stadium. Rams and Charger Stadium and the Raiders Stadium, it looks just phenomenal. Great job by both organizations to build those stadiums. Just an excellent job. Really, really, really enjoyed watching the game. I'm excited to see more games from those stadiums in the upcoming, seasons, in the upcoming weeks, whenever they have their next game. Should be very exciting. I'm really excited to see, what it does. And obviously, this is just the beginning. Getting, your first home win. I know Derek Carr last night, he wrote something on the wall or something. He wrote the first ever win there. So that's the first ever win of, hopefully, Raiders fans, many more, right? You don't want one win in that stadium, or else that means you're pretty awful. But let's get into the game. The Saints dominated early. The Saints dominated early. They were winning 10-0 out of the first quarter. It seemed they had that game in control, right? They had it in control. I was like, oh, my game pick's pretty much going to be correct. They had it in control. They were in mode. Then they scored 7 in the second half. They were up big. Or 7 in the second quarter. They were up big. But the Raiders, what made this game competitive was that second quarter. The second quarter, the Raiders went off. They had 17 points in the second quarter. They were down by 10 going into the second quarter. And you can only imagine, down by 10 going in the second quarter. Saints defense has just been dominating us. Raiders struggled early to really move the ball there. Saints defense is just dominating us. Just the offense is just playing well. 10-0 we're down. What must have been going through Raiders fans was, we're done. We're not winning. We're down by 2 score. Maybe some. If this is the Jets, you're done. I knew the Jets were done when there's 14 minutes and 50 seconds left on. And when the game was 10 seconds into the game, I knew the game was done after Raheem Mostert just scored the 80-yard touchdown on us. All right. Saints were probably thinking, we're already up 10-0. You score 1 or 2 more touchdowns and it goes into the half 24-3, 24-7. You got yourself a 3-score ball game and you're only in the first half. So the Saints started off very well. But then things changed quickly. Raiders had a huge second half. Defense played solid. Huge second quarter. I don't know why I'm keep on saying second half. They had a huge second quarter. 17 points, and they go into the half where they were trailing 10-0. They go in tied. And then they come out third quarter and they score. I mean, this is really all you could ask for. Raiders come out, score quickly, get the points they need, and they really just dominate from there. They're up 24-7, and they don't lose the lead after that. They're up 24-7. Then they score 10 in the fourth. They shut the Saints out in the third quarter. That is huge, because now you go into the fourth quarter with the 7-point lead, and then you add only on more. They scored 10 in the fourth, including the game-winning field goal. Technically game-winning. It wasn't like 3 seconds left. They just kicked it, but technically game-winning because 31-24 makes things a lot more interesting. So John Gruden, I have to admit, Gruden made excellent play call here. This was amazing play call. He knows that they have Drew Brees on the other side. He knows they have Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara. He knows it's one of the better offenses in all the league. He knows they're the New Orleans Saints, which is a well-coached team. He knows that, right? But he was so smart, and he kicked the field goal. So now, 1 minute and 5 seconds the Saints had left in the game. They were down by 10, right? I mean, there's really not much options to really do when you're down by 10. Yeah, you score we scored 30 seconds left. Now we got to convert an onside kick. I don't think the Raiders would mess up as badly as the Falcons did against the Cowboys. And the Cowboys 40-39 win on Sunday, as you probably all have heard of already. But if you follow what I'm saying, this was an amazing move. I mean, this was an amazing play call by Gruden. I think this was one of his better play calls since he's gotten here. Coaches have to know when the time is to punt and kick field goals, right? And that is another thing, too. He trusted his field goal kicker there. That's a young guy that not many people know of, that obviously he trusts. I think it was a 50-something yarder, too. That ain't no 30-yard, 20-yard chip shot. It's a 50-yarder. And that pressure mounts, too, because he misses that. You give the Saints, you give Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara the ball. You give Drew Brees the ball out midfield. Now, instead of going 80, 70 yards, they only have to go 50. Big difference. So, excellent play call by Gruden late in the game. You kick the field goal, now all of a sudden they got to go, 80 yards and twice. They got to go 80 yards, and if they would to recover the onside kick, probably like 40 yards. So, you'd have to go 120 yards in the final 2 minutes of the game. Or the final minute in the game. That's kind of very difficult. So, you're going to have to, well, they would actually technically, because they could kick the field. But if you follow what I'm saying, that was excellent play call. I think that sealed the game. Really crazy. So, that was really crazy. So, okay, I'm sorry. So yeah, really just dominant. The Raiders were. The Raiders played well. I mean, they started off in a hole. They dug themselves in a hole early. Derek Carr stepped up big moments, big plays, and big times of the game. And I very rarely will give Derek Carr, saying his brother here. I will very rarely give Derek Carr this amount of credit, but Derek Carr did everything he needed to do yesterday. He wasn't stellar. He wasn't amazing. I mean, he was kind of stellar, I should say. He was very good. He wasn't Mahomes. He wasn't Lamar Jackson. He wasn't Drew Brees. Drew Brees struggled, but he wasn't Deshaun Watson. He wasn't any of those guys. He was Derek Carr. I mean, he was very good yesterday. 28-38, 73.7 completion percentage. As a head coach, that's all you need. If you could throw over 70% of the completion percentage, if you could connect on 70% of your throws, you can make a living. Plus 282 yards, 7.4 yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 3 sacks, and a QBR rating of a 120.7. Now look at Brees. Brees struggled. 26-38, 68.4, 312 yards, 8.2 yards. He missed Michael Thomas. He did. 1 touchdown, 1 interception, no sacks. And a QBR rating of 91.1. I mean, he gave you 3 touchdowns. He gave you a solid completion percentage. He gave you good yards. And let me tell you, Raiders don't have any stellar receiving core either. Henry Ruggs is good, but still getting his feeding down in the NFL. Darren Waller is a top top tight end in the league. But he doesn't have, any crazy. He doesn't have like a Michael Thomas that Drew Brees has. He doesn't have a DeAndre Hopkins that Kyler Murray has. He spreads the ball out, and that's what the announcers are saying. He spreads it out. He throws it to a lot of different guys. He ain't kind of dialed in on one player like Kyler Murray is, or DeAndre Hopkins, or like Michael Thomas or Drew Brees is when Michael Thomas is in. Obviously, Thomas was out yesterday, but he's not dialed in on one guy. He spreads the ball out. He shares the ball. He spreads it around. He gives it to different players. Let's get Waller involved. Let's get Ruggs involved. Let's get a couple of these, players involved, right? He really gets these players involved. Very good there. And another thing, too, and I find this is great. He almost had 30 rushes yesterday. This just goes to show you again, Gruden trusts him. He believes in him. Josh Jacobs, 27 attempts, 88 yards, 3.3 average, no touchdowns, 14 was long. He didn't have an amazing game, but he was a workhorse. He was thriving. He was grinding out those yards. Yes, it wasn't a stellar 10 rushes for 90 yards, 9 yards a carry with 2 touchdowns. It wasn't that stellar, but it was a grinding night for Josh Jacobs. 27 rushes, 88 yards, not your best performance, but he still went out there and gave you a solid performance. It wasn't anything like what he did in week 1, but you're also talking about a very good defensive front with Cam Jordan, who could be one of the scariest defensive ends in all the league. Really just dominant at, he really is dominant when he's on. Yesterday wasn't his greatest performance, but it was good enough to help propel them to a win. Josh Jacobs had a grinding effort. Let's kind of just look at the receivings. Darren Waller, just a guy too that is just one of these players that's just amazing. Look how he spreads the ball around. Here, look how he spreads the ball around. Ready? Now it might not be that many receptions. But just look. He does spread the ball around. You could say this about a lot, but look, he spreads the ball around. Waller, Edwards, Renfro, Moreau, Aguilar, Jacobs, Jones. Jones caught a touchdown. Booker, Ingold, Ruggs, Witten. He shares the ball. He spreads it around. Darren Waller, 16 targets. He targeted Darren Waller 16 times. I'm going to tell you this. If we're gonna get into fantasy terms, Darren Waller is probably one of the best PPR league points per reception player. That's 12 points right there. That is 28 points in a PPR league. 12 receptions, 103 yards, 8.6 was his average, 1 touchdown, 18 long. Waller is his main duty. He targeted him 16 times. Look at the other players, though, he targeted. 2 targets, 3, 1, 1, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1. It wasn't like he targeted everybody else one time. There was a couple 3 targets. Ruggs, he targeted 3 times. Ruggs is still getting his feeding down. He only had 4 yards and caught the ball once. Still getting his feeding down a little bit. You had Carlson, you had Cole. Cole was a punter. Carlson was the kicker. He was the one who drilled in that 54-yard field goal. That's another thing, like I said. That's one of the other things I've mentioned multiple times. John Gruden had trust in his kicker. It might not mean much to a lot of you people, but for a young guy that not many people know of, even the broadcasters were saying like he's been bouncing around a little bit. They don't know if he's gonna be set, dude. Obviously, what he's seen in training camp and, pregame and just the game before that, obviously he trusted him. He went 4 for 4 yesterday. He went 4 for 4 extra points, 2 for 2 field goals, so total 6 for 6. He scored 10 of the 34 points, which is actually pretty big. He doesn't score those 10, it's a tie game. And he drilled the 54-yard field goal, which, like I said, this ain't he misses it. He misses that field goal, people. You give Drew Brees the ball in a minute and 5 seconds, that is easy to operate when you only need to go 50 yards. Or actually, technically there, you only need to go 46 because it's a 54-yard field goal. So you would only need to go 46 yards. A lot easier than having to go 70 or 80. So we really showed trust there. Defense played well. No sacks. They did not record a sack. It is kind of what it is, I guess. They just didn't record a sack. Vegas' defense, Raiders' defense isn't the greatest. Breeze, Kamara had a good game yesterday. 13 rushes, 79 yards, 6.1 was his average. 2 touchdowns, 21 long. It wasn't like Jacobs, but he was a pretty good performance for him. Breeze spread the ball out a ton yesterday. You could tell he missed Thomas because he had to really spread it about yesterday. He wasn't, nailing to that one guy. His actually top targeted player was Kamara, and that's the running back. Kamara, 9 targets. Smith, 7 targets. Montgomery, former Jet, 3 targets. Harris, 5 targets. Murray, 2 targets. Sanders, 3 targets, 1 target. Houghton, Hill, 2 targets. And Cook, 5 targets. Cook had a touchdown as well. So he spread the ball out too. Both quarterbacks, you could tell, they spread the ball out. They were able to really get it. Malcolm Jenkins had a sack. Ani Mata had a sack. And Hendrickson had a sack. So they were able to apply pressure. Raiders weren't. It's also because, the Saints offensive line's good and the Raiders aren't, your top tier defense. Not, really got to watch out for that Raiders defense. They can be nasty. It wasn't not anything like that. But like I said, I think the Raiders played well. Carr looked very good. I was expecting this game to be a pretty wide blowout for the Saints. The Raiders, you're talking about a Raiders team who is now sitting at what, 1-1 now or what? Right? Are they 1-1? I think they are, right? You're talking about a Raiders team now that Raiders. That's sitting at 2-0. I'm sorry, 2-0. Saints are 1-1. Talking about a Raiders team that's sitting at 2-0. 2-0. You're talking about a team that plays the Patriots next week. That could be interesting. If the Raiders show up like they did yesterday, they could definitely beat them. The Raiders definitely played well. They sit at 2-0. Saints dropping 1-1. Saints haven't been 2-0 since 2012, I think, was the stat they said on the broadcast last night. I don't think they've been 2-0 since 2012 or 2013, which is pretty crazy because every year they make the playoffs, but they can't seem to start off 2-0. It's either 1-0 and 1 and then 1-1 or 0-1 and 1-1. They haven't been 2-0 since 2012, I think they said, or 2013. It was one of those things. But yeah, Raiders win. Very good win for the Raiders. This is huge. Not only that it's in your new stadium, but you're also playing a team that many people have as a possible Super Bowl contender, and not many people have the Raiders winning the Super Bowl. So this is a big early season win. And a lot of people might say, "Oh, it's week 2 of the season. You still got 14 more games to go." And I understand that, but sometimes early season wins are big for a team. You gain trust in each other, right? You start off like the Jets. Jets could very well go 0-4 to start off here. You start off 0-2, 0-3. The trust, you kind of realize, okay, we're kind of like the season, we're only 3 weeks in the season, and it's kind of already done. Your trust, you're kind of just, your trust, your thrive for the game kind of gets a little lost sometimes, and I think it's a problem. But, Raiders played well, and then next week they play the Patriots, but, hey, if Raiders play like they did today, there's a chance. Raiders looked very good last night, even with one of their star players in Josh Jacobs not putting up a great performance. Like I said, he put up a grinding performance. That is the definition of a grinding performance right there, people. 27 attempts for 88 yards, 3.3 average. It wasn't much, but still, he was able to get a couple burst runs here. He was able to really grind out those performances, those plays, and sometimes those were tiring ones too, because they went to him 27 times. He almost had 30 times where he got the ball. They went to him 27 times. So, you're sometimes running backs could very well be burnt out by that 15, 20 time, and those next 7 are just that little energy left in your body, right? So, especially late in the game, too, when they were up and they wanted to juice the clock a little bit, they really, really relied on him big time to get him some yards. So, Jacobs did that. Derek Carr played surprisingly well. Saints struggle. Drew Brees struggles. And, yeah. Now, one thing I want to say before I wrap this segment up and go into fantasy football. Everybody says how well Drew Brees is handling age, and I will admit with that. He's 41 years old. You're talking almost the end of his career, and he's playing like, Tom Brady, no longer a top 10 quarterback in the league. Drew Brees is a top 5 quarterback, I still believe, in this league, and he's 41. Brady's, 42, I think, and he's not even top 15. It's the truth, though. Breeze is handling age very well. He's, Brady, you could tell I'm not trying to be mean, but you could tell, not like meaning like his play. His play is just not the same anymore. He's slower. He doesn't have that arm strength. Breeze, on the other hand, still throwing the ball 60 yards downfield and still getting some big plays. Breeze. But now everybody says after last night's performance, 41's really showing. It's one game, people. It's one game. One game. Right? He's going to move on from this. One game. One app came out with it. One app. One sports app I had came out with it. Everybody else didn't say much. Oh, breaking news. Notre Dame cancels practice. Notre Dame Irish will not practice Tuesday after 4 players test positive in the team's latest round of testing. I'll tell you what, man. I'm going to go on this really quickly here before I'm kind of doing the middle of changing topics here. The NFL is doing a phenomenal job with this whole testing thing. I feel like college football is not. I feel like college football is struggling a little bit. There's been so many postponements. Luckily, it hasn't affected Miami, though. Miami is my favorite team, and that would be painful to not have them to play. Because I always look forward to that. But it's weird. Like, college football is really struggling. But you don't want to... It's not football. It's just the NFL is doing great. The NFL hasn't had a positive test. And we're talking going on week 3 of the season. It's what I said. This is just how fast the NFL season goes. I feel like just a day ago I was watching the Jets-Bills game. We're already talking now about week 3 of the NFL season. It's crazy. The NFL season flies. That's the one problem with it. It flies. There's only technically 17 weeks. So you only see your team play 16 times. And very well, that could be it. You could very well only see your team play 16 times, and that's it. As a Jets fan, usually every year that's the case. Some fans, they get to see them play maybe 18, 19, and 20 times if you count the wild card. 20 times if you make the wild card, 19 if you don't make the wild card. Because if it's division, championship, Super Bowl, that's 19. If you make the wild card, that's 4 games. So I've never seen my team get to play 19 or 20 games in a while. I've seen them play 19 games, 18 games, not 20 though, or 19. But yeah, so the NFL has been doing really well with the testing. We haven't heard anything, too, about any of the players testing positive either because their performance, the games were on Sunday. It's Tuesday, and they test, like I've said multiple times on this podcast, they test every single day except for game days. So, obviously, Monday, Tuesday, we haven't heard any outbreaks on any team. So, obviously, they're still testing negative. So, this is great news. And the Raiders... We haven't heard anything on them, but they'll get tested today because it's not a game day. So if they test negative, then it seems more negative tests. And I'm sure we'll hear if there's an outbreak on a team. But yeah, so the NFL, knock on wood or whatever, knock on table, doing very well with the testing, doing very well starting up a league during these times. So good for the NFL. And now we move on to my fantasy football results. Now this was surprising, very surprising. Very surprising. I was not expecting this. So yesterday I came on the podcast, and if you watch the first 2 minutes of the podcast, I think I said it, I was not aware that I was winning my one league. I remember looking at it, but I thought for sure I would have just been losing. And that league I ended up winning in. So the league that I would say I have the team a 9 out of 10, who's now probably dropped to like a 9 out of something. In a league where I was down by big, I only put up 85 points. I find a way to win. So, I don't ask how because I'm still kind of wondering that too. I'm not really sure. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, I won 85-84. So. It's kind of funny. There was 2 minutes left in the game, right? And I was sitting there watching the game with actually the opponent I was playing. And I was up 85-83. And the Saints got the ball. So I was, in that moment, I was hoping that, Sanders wouldn't, do anything. Because he had Emmanuel Sanders last. Josh Jacobs was his other player. And then you had Will Lutz was his kicker. But, Will Lutz or Josh Jacobs weren't on the field at that time. Emmanuel Sanders was the only one. So, this stinks for me because Emmanuel Sanders very well could have been Breeze's number one. So, he lofts one right across the middle for 13 yards to Sanders. Gets him 1 point, 85-84. Clock's ticking. The next play, I think they throw it to Cook or something, gets tackled, right? Then all of a sudden, 3 seconds left in the game, I see Gruden take off his thingy, put his playbook and stuff somewhere else. I'm like, yes, I won. 3 seconds left, they run a play. Now, as Breeze drops back, I'm literally following Sanders on my screen. Breeze ended up dumping it off underneath to just Kamara, and he got like 6-7 yards, and then that was the end of the game. But I was hoping Breeze would not throw it to Sanders, and Sanders would get like 20 yards, and he would win the game by 1. That would be such an odd way, because on the last play of the game, that play meant absolutely nothing. You score the touchdown, you still lose. You only lose by 3 instead of 10. But either way, it's a loss is a loss. So on the play that doesn't even matter, if he would have won that game on that play, it would have stunk. But I think Breeze, too, kind of realized he didn't want to throw it across the middle and just make his stats look worse. Maybe it was just padded stats, but he didn't want to throw it across the middle, get intercepted, and maybe lose by instead of 10 points, 17 points. So he kind of just dumped it off to Kamara. He got like 6-7 yards. Nothing to be blown away about. And the Saints ended up losing, obviously. But yeah, it was funny because I was sitting there just following Sanders. I was like, Sanders better not catch his ball. So anyway, I ended up winning. So I won 85-84 in my one league. And then So I ended up winning my one league. I won 85-84 like I just said. So I am now officially 85-84 I won. I am now officially 1-1 on the season. And so this is my points yesterday. So these are how in the world I won the game. So actually, Sanders had one reception that whole game for 18 yards, and that was the reception on the third or second to last play of the game. So I won 85-84. Watson got me 14 points. Barkley got me 2, but he tore his ACL, so he didn't even play the whole game. Kenyon Drake got me 8. Tyreek Hill got me 15. Evans got me 16. Those two players I don't have in my lineup. You could forget about it. Allen had 9. Ertz had 4. T.Y. Hilton had 2. Pittsburgh defense had 13. They played really well. Prater had 2. Prater actually surprisingly struggled. He wasn't able to do much. He got 3 extra points, which is 3 points, and then he missed the field goal, so he dropped down to 2. Prater struggled. 2 points from your kicker isn't great. Not that I'm expecting him to give me 20, but I'm expecting him to give me 7, 8, 9, something like that, not 2. So Prater didn't give much, and my bench was Breeze 14. I'm glad I didn't play Breeze or Watson. Whoever I played, I would have won either way because Watson and Breeze gave me the same amount of points. Breeze had 14, Henry had 8, Swift had 7, Jones had 8. Denver defense had 2, and Jordan Howard had 6. Jordan Howard gets 6 every game. He gets like 3 yards and a touchdown. He gets 6 every game. They put him in at like the 2-yard line or 3-yard line, and he scores. So I'm probably going to drop him. I dropped Barkley, but the waiver claims and stuff come through on Wednesday, so I dropped Barkley. And at the time being, at this very moment, I'm adding James Robinson, who's played very well for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the Jaguars have played very well as a whole. So I'm adding him at the moment. Is he going to be my running back next week? Can't promise you. James Robinson does play Thursday night. So if he can have a quality game Thursday night, I could very well jump off to a good 11, 12-point start. And that would be nice. I'm not promising that I'm going to start him. He's just the backup. I'm dropping Barkley. Somebody could pick up Barkley all they want, but he tore his ACL. So you could pick him up, just have him on your roster, but he ain't going to do anything for you because he tore his ACL. Hope he gets well soon, though. Obviously, you could say that, but it'll probably take him a good, people have always said it takes at least 8 months to get ready. So he'll be probably ready, he'll probably be fully recovered about a year from now, probably July-ish. So probably very frustrating for him too. And I'm sure that year does not go by quickly. I've always wondered that. If you tear your ACL or even tear your Achilles, that time where you're off probably goes slow, right? Because you're not doing anything. You're watching your team play, and you're not doing anything. All that preparation for that whole season, and you're not doing anything. That must just stink. So Barkley's done. So I'm picking up James Robinson. Like I said, I can't promise I have him. So there's a new thing called Trade Assistant with IBM Watson. I don't always use it, but here's a couple of trades I've came up with, because I need a running back, and in my league, I'm trying to look for some trades. So one trade I could do is I'd give away Keenan Allen and Saquon, but I'm not going to trade Saquon. This is not updated. I don't think this realized that Saquon. I got to get him off my team. I don't think this realizes Saquon tears ACL, and I get Lindsey and Nick Chubb. I'm going to try to target Nick Chubb. I just don't know what I want for him. Like, I need to look at these players' rosters. Another one is a running back, Miles Sanders. I don't want to give up Mike Evans because I'm not getting a fair trade for Darius Slay. I could give up Mike Evans and get 2 players, but I don't want to give up Evans because I'm not getting a good receiver in return. Slayton's good, but nothing like Evans. I'll take Sanders though. So a couple people I've been targeting is Miles Sanders and Nick Chubb. Those are a couple people I am targeting, or Miles Sanders and Nick Chubb for my running back position. Because I don't know if James Robinson's going to be able to carry me this whole way, but I'm definitely looking for Miles Sanders or not James Robinson, Nick Chubb. So the one person that I has the Nick Chubb does need a receiver. He could use another receiver. His receiving core right now is His receiving core is right now Thielen, Kupp, Green. His receiving core right now is Thielen, Kupp, Green. Sorry, I just had to look at something else. So his receiving core right now is Thielen, Kupp, Green, AJ Green. So Thielen struggled this week. Kupp struggled this week. AJ Green's been struggling this whole time. So if I can find a way to give the person that has Nick Chubb a solid receiver for Nick Chubb, like maybe I give up T.Y. Hilton or Keenan Allen for Nick Chubb, that would be huge because I need a running back. Like I said, James Robinson might be for this week, but he can't be for the whole season. Because I just don't know if I trust him. I don't want to live off a waiver wire either with all my running backs. And my backups aren't great. Swift has struggled, and so has Jordan Howard. And I just don't want to live off a running back, I just don't want it. So at the moment, I'm only projected 86 points. That's also because Barkley's out, and I haven't made any other changes to my roster because I also need to just make other moves. So I don't know, man. My fantasy team right now, I kind of said last night, it's back to the drawing board because now that my first pick in the draft is gone, I didn't get the first pick. I got the second pick and took Barkley. Hindsight 2020, I probably should have took Elliott, but I wasn't really thinking Elliott. Barkley's there. Hindsight 2020, should have took Barkley or Elliott, but hindsight is always 2020. So hindsight 2020 probably should have took Elliott, but Elliott or Derrick Henry. But Henry's been off to a little bit of a slow start himself. So like I said, I don't really know what to do in this situation. I know what to do. I just don't know if people are going to want to trade because I could give up Keenan Allen, but he's been iffy at best. I don't want Edwards-Helaire. I don't want, and Joe Mixon. I don't want because I know I'm not going to get him. I've been targeting Aaron Jones, but I just don't know what to give this person that has Aaron Jones because he doesn't need a receiver. He doesn't need a tight end. He doesn't need a quarterback. He doesn't need a running back. I guess he could use maybe a receiver. Will Fuller's got him 0 points. He could probably use a receiver. He's got Leonard Fournette on his bench, but another thing too, Leonard Fournette had one burst week. Is he going to have all these weeks where he's going to be like that? Another thing too. That's the problem with trading in the season. We've only seen these guys play 2 weeks. That's why I sometimes start trading like week 5, 6 because you get a good, week 6 you get a good okay, these guys, first 5 weeks of the season, all right, this guy's not going to be very good. These guys have only been playing for 2 weeks. It's kind of tough to really judge them off of 2 weeks. Derrick Henry struggled his first 2 weeks. I'll tell you that for sure. Henry hasn't done anything special his first 2 weeks. He had 8 points last week and 12 his first week. 12 wasn't bad, but it hasn't been anything what Derrick Henry should be putting up. Henry could very well be putting up 15 every week. He's been 12 and 8, which isn't anything crazy. See, the person I could trade for Derrick Henry, they don't have their running back is slim. If David Johnson as their second running back. I've thought about trading Kenyon Drake as maybe for another running back, but Kenyon Drake's also my lone guy there. If I give up Drake and I get somebody else average, then there goes my running back core. Because now James Robinson has to be in. So it takes a lot here, especially running backs, because running backs is a skill position. I notice it's the easiest thing to trade for is a tight end. Usually people, they'll just be like, okay, I'll take this tight end. But for a skill position where they produce the most points on your team usually is a running back, that's big. That's big. So, yeah, running back, I need one. Barkley's tore his ACL, so I'm going to need to do something. Now I'm to my other team where I don't need to make trades. But my other team, I lost 125 to 83. Rodgers at 22 points, Elliott 16, Chris Carson 16, Adams 3, Schuster 4, Ertz 4, David Johnson 5. Buffalo defense really struggled. I expected them to do well against Miami. They had -1. Butker 12. And my bench, Kittle was out, so he had 0. DJ Moore at 12. Roethlisberger 22. Robinson 3. Gurley 6. Chicago defense 13. Woods 9. I probably would have helped if I would have put in Chicago defense. If I would have put in Chicago defense, which I was actually contemplating on putting in, I was going to put in Chicago defense because they're playing a roughed-up Giants offense, and the Giants and the Bills also are playing a decent Dolphins offense, and also the Bills have so many injuries at the linebacking core. I was going to put in the Bears defense. I actually had them on my lineup, and then I removed them, and then they put them on the bench. If I put in Bears defense, that's 14 extra points because that's -1, so that's 97. And then DJ Moore I would have put in maybe over David Johnson, which I never really thought about. I would have lost this game 125 to 111. A lot better than 125-83. So after absolutely bursting last week, putting up 147, I think, or 157, I think, last week. After absolutely dominating last week, almost putting up 160, I put up 83 the next week. That just goes to show you how unpredictable fantasy football is. That's the one thing with fantasy football. You can make your lineups, you could, do all that stuff, but the problem is it's out of your control how players perform. It's out of your control how players perform, right? You could, I could think Adams is the best receiver. I could think, some of these players are going to do well. But it's out of my control how they perform, right? I can't, if they play well, they play well. If they play bad, they play bad. It's like I can't purposely make Rodgers it's almost like Madden on the other hand. Like if you lose, that's your fault. Like fantasy football, it's not always your fault. Now you could bench players that you shouldn't bench, but all in all, I think I started a pretty good team. I mean, I started Rodgers. I think that was a good move. I started Elliott. That's good. Chris Carson, good. I mean, I'm not gonna bench Chris Carson. Devontae Adams, I started. He struggled, but I started him because I'm not going to bench him. There's sometimes just players where you just don't bench. Now, I could very well bench him if he has 7 weeks where he just puts up 3 points. Then maybe you bench him. But if you follow what I'm saying, fantasy football is sometimes tough because you can have all the knowledge. You can have all that stuff. You can know all what you're doing. But it's at the end of the day, it's out of your control. It's either the player performs well or the player struggles or the player gets injured. I could not have any control over Saquon Barkley tearing his ACL. I mean, what do I have? I can't magically put something on him that says you're not going to tear your ACL. That's the one. That's why it's a problem. But that's what makes fantasy fun, though, is because now you have to make adjustments. Now I have to trade. Now I'm going to have to pick up another running back. Now I'm going to have to figure out who I'm going to get, what player, I'm going to target. So, should be fun. But this is my first little roadblock, my little bump in the road for fantasy football, which it's only week 2. Which I guess is pretty early to have a couple bumps in the road. Saquon Barkley, you can make the argument, best player on my team, tears the ACL, so he's done. So I'm going to need to target the running back. To be honest, tonight I'm going to be very active. I'm going to try to trade. Tonight I'll be very active trying to trade for a running back. I'm going to be very, very active trying to trade for a running back tonight in fantasy football. So, because I need one. Like I said, I'm not trying to be mean and saying James Robinson's not the answer, but I would rather Nick Chubb over James Robinson. I would rather Miles Sanders over James Robinson. I would rather maybe getting, someone better, someone over. I would I think that Chubb deal if I could get Chubb somehow, that would be very good. But, anyway, so with all that being said, fantasy football was semi-success this weekend. In my other league, I'm making 2 moves. I'm adding Matt Ryan and dropping Ben Roethlisberger, and then I'm adding Buccaneers defense and adding Bears defense. Because Bears defense, even though they played well last week, they're going up against Atlanta offense that has actually played amazing these first couple weeks, and Bills play the Rams this week, so don't know what that's going to bring. So with all that being said, that's what I got for fantasy football. So, yeah. So, anyway. So, those are the results for fantasy football this week. Struggled. I went 1-1. Went overall 1-1 in both my teams. Now I stand 500. If you're combining both leagues, I stand at 500. Which isn't the worst. Isn't the best. I would much rather be 4-0 right now instead of 2-2. But, that's okay. But with all that being said, now we move on to our next topic, which is the Yankees, the Mets, and Stanley Cup. So the Yankees play today, 6:37 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, against the Toronto Blue Jays. Second to last game of this 3-game set. We win it, of this 4-game set. I'm sorry, we play a 4-game set. I'm sorry. So this is the second game of a 4-game set. If we could win it tonight, that would be nice, because then we are still in the contending possibility of winning the thing. If we lose tonight, then we can only split the series, not win the series. So let's hope we can win tonight. We lost last night 11-5. We had 5 runs, 8 hits, 2 errors. Toronto 11 runs, 13 hits, 1 error. Yankee starter Michael King struggled pretty early on. LeMahieu had 2 hits. LeMahieu went 2 for 4. Wade went 0 for 0 with a run and a walk. Judge went 1 for 4. Judge has been a little slow since he gets back. Hopefully he can get a timing back before the playoffs start. Talkman 1 for 1 with 3 RBIs. Stan 1 for 5. Voit 0 for 4. Kratz 0 for 0. Torres 0 for 2 with 2 runs and 2 walks. Hicks 1 for 3 with a walk. Urshela 2 for 4 with a run scored and 2 RBIs. Sanchez went 0 for 4. Gardner went 0 for 3 with a run scored and a walk. Michael King went 2 2/3, 5 hits, 5 earned, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. Loizaga 1 inning, 5 hits, 3 earned, 2 walks, no strikeouts. Nick Nelson 2 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. Chad Green 1 1/3, 1 hit, 1 earned, no walks, 2 strikeouts. Ottavino 1 inning, no hits, no earned, no walks, 2 strikeouts. Yankees fall to the Blue Jays. I guess a win tonight though, as Cole takes the mound. That last night, for example, was on the pitching. You should be able to win a game. 5 runs is pretty easy to win a game with. The Mets last night, they lost, even though they lost 2-1. I mean, their offense was just dull. The Mets had 1 run, 4 hits, no errors. Rays 2 runs, 5 hits, no errors. DeGrom pitched an amazing performance, but when your offense gives you 1 run, it's very difficult to, win. Nimmo went 0 for 2 with a walk. McNeil 2 for 4 with an RBI. Jay Davis 0 for 3 with a walk. Dom Smith 0 for 4. Cano 0 for 4. Alonso 0 for 4. Rosario 0 for 3. Jimenez 0 for 1. Heredia 0 for 2 with a run scored and a walk. Ramos 2 for 3. DeGrom went 7 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned, 2 walks, 14 strikeouts. Castro 1 inning, 1 hit, no earned, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. Diaz 1 inning, no hits, no earned, 1 walk, no strikeouts. So Mets lose. Tough to win a game with 1 run and 4 hits. So, Mets once again, offense can't find a way to come up big and get some good hits. And it's just kind of been the story of their season always. So, Stanley Cup. Here we go. The Stanley Cup was last night, and if I could find. So Stanley Cup was last night, and the Lightning tied up the series 1-1. The Lightning pretty much won that game going in the first intermission. The Lightning tied the series up 1-1. They won 3-2. They scored 3. They bursted out early on with 3 quick goals. I mean, in hockey, that is one of the big things you want. You burst out with 3 quick goals, you're more than likely going to win. Even in soccer, even in sports where it's a low-scoring game, you burst out with a quick run. You see it most of the time in baseball. Look what the Blue Jays did last night. They bursted out early with multiple runs and they won. Look what the Lightning did. They burst out early with multiple. I mean, you could say this about any sport, not just the low-scoring sports, but especially the low-scoring sports. Because you could say in football you could burst out to a 14-0 lead, but technically that's only two scores. Not that difficult. As for baseball, when you burst out to a 7-0 lead or an 8-0 lead, it's almost like the game's over. It's kind of like, we're not scoring 9 straight runs. So Lightning bursted out, especially in hockey, because hockey's very hard to score. There's some games where their combined scores 2 or their combined scores 3, and sometimes in baseball or other sports, teams get 3 by themselves. So hockey is definitely very hard to score. So you find yourself early in a hole in 3, and scoring 4 goals in hockey is a lot for hockey. So you find yourself 3-0 not early. Stars climbed back a little. They scored 1 in the second, 1 in the third, but could not ultimately tie the game 3-3. They lost 3-2. The Lightning played well. There's really no other way of saying it. Lightning played very, very well. They tie up the series. They play tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Once again, that should be a lot of fun to see who wins that game. Another thing I noticed about the Yankees game, I always like to leave this for last, just to show people, because it is so clear that the Yankees just don't seem to win games when they don't get like 6 hits. Kind of difficult. I mean, look here. They had 8 hits. Actually, they played pretty well. I mean, they had 8 hits. They just couldn't put many runs on the board. So, they scored 5 runs. They had 8 hits, they scored 5 runs, and that's the whole thing. They lost, but they scored 5 runs. It's kind of difficult to win when your pitcher allows 11 runs. Or when you're pitching, it's kind of difficult to win when, you let it, So, Yankees lose, Mets lose, and by the way, I give the Yankees the win tonight and the Mets win tonight. I give the Yankees the win. I don't know if I would said the Mets, but I give the Mets the win tonight. Outside of DeGrom, their pitching isn't very good. And as for the Yankees, it is in Garrett Cole versus Tanner Roark tonight for the New York Yankees. Should be fun to watch. I'm excited to see what all happens there. The Yankees tonight too. We want to win the series. And if we can finish up, I know I'm talking a little highly here. If we can win 6 straight, because we have 3 less in this series, then we come home and play the Marlins. The Yankees stay home for a little bit there. Because if you win this series, then you go to the Marlins, and then you play 3 against the Marlins at home, then I'm pretty sure if we can keep winning, and that's what I want to win too. Is like they want to secure home field advantage for that wild card, right? So if we could secure home field advantage, we'll be playing at Yankee Stadium for the first round of the playoffs. It won't be normal, usually that place is rocking, but still playoff baseball is playoff baseball. So it should be exciting. I'm excited to watch. Hopefully you are as well. Like I said, we'll have it all covered here on the podcast as the season gets closer and closer and closer to playoff time and closer to the World Series. I'll have it all covered on this podcast. Should be exciting. The next month of baseball is what a lot of people say is the most exciting time of year for this sport. October baseball. So, should be fun. I'm excited. Hopefully you are as well. With all that being said, that will do it for the podcast today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.